I am Ian, a guardian of heaven. I stand watch over the realm, ever vigilant, ever faithful. We, the angels, are the humble servants of God. Our duty is clear: to protect, to guide, to preserve the light of heaven. But even in heaven, there are times when shadows come, times when the very foundation of our realm is shaken. This is the story of one such time, a time when the rebellion of Morningstar threatened everything we hold dear. Heaven is a place of eternal light, where peace reigns supreme and the very air hums with divine harmony. Here we angels serve, humble in our purpose, steadfast in our mission. We are the watchers of heaven, the silent sentinels who guard against any who would dare disturb the purity of this sacred realm. Yet even in such a perfect place, something sinister can find its way, something dark. Morningstar was once one of us. His wings shone brighter than the sun, his heart devoted to the service of the Almighty. We called him our brother, and his strength, loyalty, and wisdom made him a beacon of light for all to see. But in time, something within him began to change. His heart grew heavy with ambition, and his mind, once humble, turned to thoughts of power. He sought not only to serve, but to rule. The love he once had for the Creator twisted into envy, and with envy came pride. Morningstar, the brightest of us all, began to desire more than heaven's beauty, more than the God's eternal wisdom. He desired the throne itself. It was not long before he gathered those whose hearts had also been corrupted. One by one, they fell from grace, their divine nature slowly unraveling until they became something unrecognizable. Demons, creatures of darkness and malice. Together, they formed a council, their mission clear: to overthrow the divine order, to tear heaven apart. I remember the day the tremors first began. At my post, high above the tranquil gardens, I felt a disturbance in the fabric of heaven. It was a subtle thing at first, like the first ripple of a storm far on the horizon. But even so, I knew that something was wrong. There was a dark presence, a threat that was rising, and in my heart I knew the one who was behind it: Morningstar. His ambition had led him astray, and now he sought to destroy all that we had built. In the radiant halls of heaven, Archangels Michael and Gabriel gathered to discuss the news we had received. The demons were on the move, and their numbers were vast. There was no time to waste. Heaven was under attack. The battle began swiftly, like a storm breaking over a peaceful sea. The demons, driven by hate and malice, tore through heaven's defenses. The skies burned with fire, and the very ground beneath our feet shook as angels and demons collided in a furious clash. I drew my sword, its divine light blazing like a beacon in the shadowy chaos. Every blow I struck felt like a testament to our unwavering faith, our unyielding duty to protect the light. The demons were fierce, their claws and dark blades cutting through the air, fueled by a hatred that was nearly palpable. The very fabric of heaven seemed to tremble beneath their assault. And yet we fought on. The angels, our wings beating in unison, held the line against the oncoming darkness. I could feel God's presence inside of me. The air crackled with energy. I fought not just for heaven's peace, but for the very essence of all that was good in this universe, and for our beloved Creator. Each strike was a reminder of the sanctity of our mission, a battle not just for survival, but for the soul of heaven itself. As the battle raged on, the tide shifted. I could feel it, the presence of Morningstar. He had come. His wings, once pure and radiant, now twisted and corrupted by darkness, his very being exuding an aura of malevolence. It was as if the heavens themselves recoiled in fear at his arrival. He stood at the head of the demon army, his infernal power, force unlike anything I had ever felt. He was more than a threat. He was an embodiment of the darkness we had sworn to keep at bay. Morningstar's arrival marked the beginning of the most intense battle I had ever known. He made his way toward Archangel Michael, our leader. The air around him crackled with the intensity of his power. I knew that if he fell, if Michael was defeated, heaven itself would falter. The balance of the realm would be lost. The confrontation between Morningstar and Michael was inevitable. The two forces, light and A darkness clashed in a cosmic struggle that sent ripples through the very fabric of existence. The sound of their blades meeting was like thunder, shaking heaven to its core. I could see it in Michael's eyes. He knew the stakes. He knew the cost of failure. Each strike that Michael delivered was filled with divine power. Each blow aimed not only at Morningstar, but at the very essence of the rebellion. And yet even Michael struggled. The sheer force of Morningstar's power was overwhelming. The battle was fierce, but Michael's resolve remained unbroken. I stood back, my heart heavy with the weight of the war. I could not intervene in this moment. The battle between Michael and Morningstar was one that could not be swayed by any of us. This was a conflict that could only be resolved by the strength of their wills. And then, in that moment of desperation, something extraordinary happened. A blinding light erupted from the very heart of heaven, an unstoppable wave of divine energy that surged forth, washing over the battlefield. It was the light of the Almighty, a power so pure that it cut through the darkness like a blade. The demons recoiled in fear, their wills shattered by the power of the light. Morningstar, in his final moments, tried to resist, but the light was too much. The forces of darkness were pushed back, their strength broken. Morningstar's form, once radiant and beautiful, was now nothing but a shadow. He was cast out of heaven, banished from the realm he had once sought to rule. The battlefield fell silent, save for the echoes of the Almighty's divine power. The demons were scattered, their forces broken. Heaven, though scarred by the battle, had endured. The light had triumphed, but the cost was great. We, the angels, stood victorious, but the scars of war would remain. Heaven had been tested, and we had stood firm. But in the silence that followed, I could not help but reflect on the price of victory. We had lost so much. The memory of Morningstar's rebellion would linger in the hearts of all who had fought. The echoes of that battle would forever reverberate through the halls of heaven. And then, as I stood there in the aftermath, I heard it, a voice low and chilling coming from the void. It was Morningstar, his presence lingering even in defeat. "This is not over," he whispered, his voice filled with malice. "Not even close. The darkness will return, and when it does, I will be ready. Heaven has only won a battle, not the war." His words, though faint, struck deep within me. We had won, yes, but the war was far from over. The darkness, though pushed back, was always near, and as guardians of heaven, we would remain ever vigilant. Our duty, our faith, would never falter. We are the humble servants of God and serve to his pleasure. And we will never cease in our mission to protect the light.